I tell you, for instance, something which is my personal or subjective view.
Yeah.
And if I ask myself, are you really quite convinced of it? Well, I must admit I have certain doubts.
Yeah.
There are certain doubts. Not in the moment, and I tell you, but these doubts are in the unconscious. And when I have a dream about it, these doubts come to the foreground in my dreams.
Have you ever gone to sleep one night and woken up the next morning feeling fundamentally different? Not physically different, but as if something deeper had shifted within you? This experience isn't merely coincidence or imagination. It represents a profound capacity we all possess, the ability to deliberately wake up as a different version of ourselves. The ancient mystics recognized this truth. Carl Jung wrote extensively about it. Modern neuroscience is confirming it. Our consciousness possesses the extraordinary power to reshape itself, sometimes overnight. Yet most of us rarely utilize this capacity intentionally. To be clear, I'm not suggesting some overnight miracle that transforms your life into a fairy tale. What I'm describing is something real and grounded, a process through which you can experience genuine transformation if you're willing to approach your consciousness differently. I remember precisely when I first experienced this phenomenon. After months of struggling with overwhelming anxiety, I woke up one morning to discover something had shifted. The anxiety hadn't disappeared, but I was no longer drowning in it. Instead, I was observing it from a new place within myself. This wasn't random. It happened because the night before, I had committed to a specific process I'll share with you today. Before we dive deeper, let me clarify what this transformation entails. This isn't about forcing yourself to be positive all the time or denying your challenges. These approaches might work temporarily, but don't create lasting change. I'm talking about something much deeper, understanding that who you are in this moment is not fixed or permanent. You're constantly evolving, whether you're conscious of it or not. Today's conversation is about taking the wheel of that evolution. We'll explore what I call the architecture of self, how your identity is constructed and why it's far more fluid than you might believe. We'll discuss the science and wisdom behind overnight transformation, examining why sleep is such a powerful ally in personal evolution. I'll share the exact 5-step process I use myself and with clients. We'll address common obstacles that might arise and how to work with them compassionately. Finally, I'll share remarkable stories from people who've applied these principles so you can see how this process manifests in real lives. An important distinction: when I talk about waking up as a different version of yourself, I'm not suggesting you'll become someone unrecognizable or that your life circumstances will magically change overnight. Rather, I'm describing a profound shift in how you relate to yourself, to others, and to your circumstances. Sometimes these shifts are subtle but meaningful. Other times, they're profoundly transformative. Either way, they build momentum toward the life you sense is possible. Now let's explore the architecture of self. Most people think of themselves as something solid and unchanging. This is just how I am, we tell ourselves. But both modern psychology and ancient wisdom traditions paint a different picture. They suggest that what we call self is actually a dynamic, ever-changing process rather than a fixed entity. Carl Jung described the self as an ongoing dialogue between our conscious mind and what he called the unconscious, that vast reservoir of potential within us that we're not normally aware of. Jung believed much of our psychological development happens through this dialogue, as elements from the unconscious gradually integrate into our conscious awareness. Fascinatingly, Jung observed how this process often involves dreams and sleep, describing dreams as a little hidden door in the innermost and most secret recesses of the soul. Modern neuroscience confirms this fluidity through the concept of neuroplasticity, your brain's remarkable ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections. This happens throughout your life, not just in childhood as once believed. Particularly relevant is that some of the most important neuroplastic processes happen during sleep, when your brain consolidates learning, processes emotional experiences, and rehearses new ways of being. At the most fundamental level, who you are is not the collection of thoughts, emotions, and memories you typically identify with. Those are contents of your consciousness, not consciousness itself. Your true nature is the awareness in which all these experiences arise, an awareness that is inherently free, unbounded, and capable of profound transformation. Imagine your sense of self as a house with many rooms. Most of us live our lives in just a few familiar rooms, believing these represent the entirety of who we are. But in reality, the house is vast, containing rooms we've forgotten or never explored, windows offering entirely different views, doors opening to new possibilities. What if tonight you could fall asleep in a familiar room but wake up in one you've rarely visited? What if you could look out from windows offering an entirely new perspective on your life? If our identity is so fluid, why do we often feel stuck in the same patterns? The answer lies in what psychologists call self-reinforcing patterns. Once established, our ways of thinking, feeling, and behaving tend to perpetuate themselves. We interpret new experiences through the lens of our existing identity, unconsciously seeking evidence that confirms our current self-concept. We surround ourselves with people and environments that reflect back who we think we are. These patterns create a gravitational field pulling us back to familiar versions of ourselves, even when those versions cause suffering or limit our potential. Breaking free from these patterns requires accessing deeper levels of consciousness, levels more accessible during the twilight states between waking and sleeping. Throughout human history, across virtually every culture, night has been associated with transformation. During sleep, something remarkable happens to consciousness. The boundaries between different parts of your psyche become more permeable. The analytical mind relaxes its grip, and the deeper wisdom of your unconscious becomes more accessible. Neuroscientists have discovered that during sleep, particularly during REM and deep sleep phases, your brain processes emotional experiences, consolidates learning, and rehearses new skills and behaviors. Your brain literally reorganizes itself while you sleep. Many wisdom traditions speak of sleep as a time when ordinary consciousness merges with deeper levels of awareness, what some call the soul, higher self, or universal consciousness. There are two particularly powerful windows for transformation within your daily sleep cycle. The first is the hypnagogic state, that dreamy transition as you're falling asleep when your brain waves shift from beta to alpha to theta. In this state, your conscious and unconscious mind communicate more directly, and the critical, analytical mind relaxes, allowing new possibilities to take root. The second window is the hypnopompic state, that liminal space as you're waking up, when dreams and waking reality intermingle. This is when new neural patterns formed during sleep can be consciously recognized and integrated. Most people pass through these states without awareness, missing powerful opportunities for transformation. But with the right approach, you can leverage these windows to catalyze profound shifts in your identity and experience. Let me share the 5-step process you can begin implementing tonight. Step 1, clarify your intention. Before you can wake up as a different version of yourself, you need clarity about what aspect of yourself you're evolving. Avoid being too vague, I want to be happier, or focusing only on what you want to move away from, I don't want to be anxious anymore. Instead, formulate your intention as a specific quality of being or relating that you wish to embody. For example, rather than, I want to be less anxious, try I intend to wake up experiencing a deep sense of calm and trust in life's unfolding. Write your intention in a journal or on a card by your bedside. This crystallizes your intention and signals to your unconscious mind that this shift matters. Step 2, create a sensory-rich vision. Once your intention is clear, create a vivid, multi-sensory vision of waking up as this version of yourself. What will it feel like in your body? What sensations will you notice? How will your breathing change? What thoughts might naturally arise? How will your emotional landscape shift? Make this vision as detailed and sensory-rich as possible. Don't just visualize yourself acting differently, focus on the internal experience, the felt sense of being this version of yourself. Step 3, the evening transition practice. This step works directly with the hypnagogic state as you're falling asleep. Create conducive conditions by reducing screen time before bed, dimming lights, and perhaps doing a brief meditation or gentle stretching. As you lie down, bring attention to your breathing, taking several slow, deep breaths. Bring your intention to mind, then gradually transition into your sensory-rich vision. Experience waking up tomorrow as this version of yourself, Feel it unfolding as if it's already happening. Don't force or strain. Simply create conditions for natural transformation by aligning your conscious intention with unconscious processes. Eventually, you'll drift into sleep carrying this seed of transformation. Step 4. The morning integration practice. How you wake up is just as important as how you fall asleep. Allow yourself to wake naturally if possible, providing a gentler transition that preserves connection to dreams and unconscious processes. As you first become aware you're waking, before opening your eyes, notice what's present in your body, emotions and thoughts. Be curious about what might have shifted overnight. Connect with your intention and invite that quality of being into awareness as you prepare to begin your day. Step 5. Daytime reinforcement. The final step involves reinforcing your overnight transformation throughout your day, creating a positive feedback loop that strengthens new neural pathways. Set aside brief moments during transitions between activities to reconnect with the quality you're cultivating. Notice moments when you naturally embody this quality, even briefly. Pay attention to situations that challenge this new expression of yourself, seeing them as opportunities to practice integration. Consider keeping a transformation journal to record experiences, insights, and challenges, deepening integration and helping recognize patterns over time. As with any transformative practice, you'll likely encounter challenges. Impatience and expectations can arise when change unfolds gradually rather than dramatically overnight. The antidote is appreciating the process itself and noticing subtle shifts. Your inner critic may become more vocal, attempting to keep you within familiar territory. Rather than fighting these thoughts, acknowledge them with compassion and gently return to your practice. Environmental factors and relationships often reinforce familiar versions of ourselves. Consider what adjustments might create more alignment between internal shifts and external reality. Be careful not to bypass necessary emotional processing in your desire for transformation. Finally, avoid the myth of arrival, the belief there's some final, perfected version of yourself after which no further evolution will be necessary. Transformation is ongoing. There's no final destination, only continued evolution. The stories of those who've worked with this process illustrate how transformation can unfold in diverse ways. Sarah transformed her relationship with anxiety, not by eliminating anxious thoughts, but by creating space around them. Michael reclaimed his creative expression as a musician after years of abandonment. Elena transformed her relationship patterns, moving from people-pleasing to authentic self-expression. In each case, change began subtly before becoming more apparent, affected how they related to experiences rather than eliminating challenges entirely, naturally created external changes over time, and represented ongoing evolution rather than a final arrival. The capacity to wake up as a different version of yourself isn't something I'm giving you. It's something you already possess, built into the very nature of your consciousness. This remarkable ability to know itself, reflect on itself, and transform itself through awareness is your birthright. All I've offered are specific ways to work with this innate capacity more deliberately, compassionately, and effectively. I invite you to begin tonight. Start with one quality of being you'd like to cultivate, following the 5 steps we've explored. Remember that transformation unfolds in its own timing. Some shifts happen suddenly, others emerge gradually. Trust the wisdom of your consciousness to unfold in the way that serves your highest good. The most powerful transformations often emerge from our most challenging circumstances. You don't need perfect conditions, extended time, or special expertise, only the willingness to engage with your consciousness with intention and compassion. Even 5 minutes as you fall asleep and wake up can initiate profound shifts that ripple through your entire experience. Tonight, as you prepare for sleep, remember this simple truth. You are not fixed. You are not stuck. The version of yourself you've been experiencing is just one expression of your vast potential. Tomorrow morning, you can wake up different, not because you've forced change through willpower, but because you've aligned with the natural transformative capacity of your consciousness. What version of yourself will you wake up as tomorrow? The choice and the journey are yours.